the opportunity to play with one of these things, and you will very shortly, you'll see it. Very transformational. It's much more than just reading a magazine. It's how we're going to surf the internet. It's going to be the way we connect, the way we interface. And it's coming. And a lot of these new devices are really going to change our behaviors. The other thing is, if you saw there, it's really going to change the way we interact with information. Right, the way we see it, the way we see, just touching it and doing it. And there was a really interesting example on the iPad. They were doing, giving it to people that are older than I, and that makes them pretty old, and gave them the tablet without any instruction whatsoever, and they started to explore it. They were able to do about 80% of the stuff with no instruction. Right, very, very common gesture-based kind of stuff. And again, I think it's also going to create a whole new genre of business models regarding advertising. Advertising will move and print more to an action-oriented. You'll see an ad, you'll click it, you'll request information, you'll buy a product. And I think for those magazines that have that content, it will create new revenue streams and new revenue opportunities that didn't exist before. Let me move on to probably, I think, the greatest transformation of them all, which is video. Being in this business for a long time, this is the killer application. We always talk about, what is the killer application? It's here, it's this, it's video. And there's a lot of ways of measuring it. There's a lot of ways of looking at it. And one of the studies we did through our Cisco's Visual Networking Index study, we looked at video, and the conclusion we came to, in not too distant future, by 2014, 90% of all the consumer internet traffic and half of all the mobile traffic in the world will be video, right? You have to start asking your question, well, why? Well, let's define it first to kind of give us a little bit of an idea of what it is. And for us, video, number one, is any content, anytime, anywhere, on any device. Whether it's an iPad, a phone, you're going to be able to get it. And the network's got to be intelligent enough to know what device you're on, how much bandwidth you've got, what content are you trying to load, right, and be able to make some determinations. It wouldn't be unheard of in the near future that you're trying to load a high-definition video with a very slow speed connection that might be wireless in nature, and the network will take the function of saying, you know what, let's step down the quality, let's remove the frames per second, bring it down, and that will be done on the fly versus trying to get something that's streaming that keeps stalling, right? So that intelligence will start being pervasive. And then on the video applications, there's a number of different ones. The one that I think we're all very, very familiar with is what we call personal video. And personal video being things that are done with devices like this. This is the flip camera that Tom mentioned. This is extremely revolutionary in the technology in the one sense that you basically record, it's very simple, you connect and you share, right? And that really makes everything very, very different. And if we look at it in a little bit more, just looking at personal video as one of the things, this is about non-real-time video, meaning we record it. It's about recording and uploading, which we see. It's easy to use. You share primarily at the beginning with your family and friends. It's secure because it's by invitation only. And then you can also do some public stuff and put it onto YouTube or whatever else. And then it becomes a vehicle for talent and ideas. And by the way, we've sold over 4 million of these cameras already, and the acceleration curve for these cameras are continuously getting faster and faster. Now let me show you how it's changed my life. When you plug in the flip into the computer, this is the middleware that you get, and this is what it looks like. So my travel with my family used to be I send them an email or I give them a phone call. What I do now is I start recording videos and I post it onto my family channel, and they all get emails to either watch it. My kids that have iPhones can watch the iPhone. So the way I share where I am and what I am doing with them, I no longer do it through email or phone calls. I actually do it through video. Right, and this is the interface that's there. You can see it. Last night, when we were at the dinner, or the event, right, I was able to record Todd. There's Todd, presenting, and he was doing the welcome and everything else, and I can take Todd's photo now or video and start looking at it and take the video stream and actually create JPEGs out of it, right, and create photos out of that stream. So the way I'm using video now is also as a camera, right? Why wait for that perfect moment? Just record, then you go back and pick the JPEGs you want and create JPEGs. You can create and do all sorts of things where you can actually, create a movie. You can share with your friends, create cards. You can do a variety of different things. But all of that is there, and it's very, very easy to use. And that's the whole notion of this. Where it's going, which is even more fascinating, is think of these videos for business. Think of it for training. We used to have all these presentations that were put up by our product managers. Now it's all the videos of them recording themselves saying, hey, check out this new product. Let me tell you what it's about, right? And it becomes the way we kind of do things. I was in Puerto Rico looking at a potential site to build maybe a technology or information center, and I took my video camera out and said, here's the floor space, here's what it looks like, and I sent it out to the team, right? Versus having them to fly there to kind of scope it out. I was able to give them a visual on it. So video is really extremely powerful and one of the killer applications. I'm not telling you anything I don't think you already know. Look at the amount of usage of people watching video, and it outranks just about everything out there, right? It's a portal for talent and ideas. It has a vast amount of content. It's actually incredibly educational. I was in São Paulo, Brazil, getting interviewed by one of the local television stations. And someone asked me if I used YouTube, and I said, yes, I do. What about yourself? And he goes, well, I personally don't use it, but my daughter uses it. And I said, well, how old is your daughter? He said, my daughter's 12. And I said, what does she use it for? I'm interviewing the interviewer. And he goes to me, well, she uses it for dance. And I said, well, what do you mean she uses it for dance? She says she's into ballet. The ballet school is very, very far from where we live, and what she does is she goes onto YouTube to watch other dancers to get technique from that individual. Right, so here's a very simple way of looking at video as an education that I never even thought of, right? There's also a number of other things that are going on. I don't know how many are familiar with Khan Academy, but here's a guy who was an investment banker, had his niece live far away, and he was very good in math. His niece was having some problems with mathematics, and he was sending her, right, video clips of different math problems and how to solve for them. He's now running this Khan Academy, and it's amazing. You know, he's got 900 plus videos on YouTube, and people are kind of absorbing it all, right? And he's now left his investment banking job just to do this. There's another example, and there's some really incredible one. How many of you have seen the movie Search for Gollum? Anybody? Not many. So let me tell you what the Search for Gollum movie is. It was basically an unofficial prequel to The Lord of the Rings. And what they did in this particular movie was a 40-minute independent film. It had no commercial production. It looked actually pretty darn good, right? This is what it looks like. You know, and what they basically took is they took video clips and a few other things and created a storyline out of it. By the way, they've got over 5 million viewers on it. And how much do you think it cost to make? Anybody want to take a guess? I'll give you the number. 5,000. 5,000, 5 million viewers. Kind of pretty interesting. Here's another one that's kind of interesting from a YouTube perspective. American Idol has 30 million viewers. Lost has 12 million viewers. There's this kid, Fred. How many of you know Fred? Ask your teenagers if you have them, if they know Fred. I'll guarantee you they know Fred. I don't like Fred. But Fred, in a particular channel, had 2.5 million viewers. As a matter of fact, if you look at his video, it's very annoying. He screams. This is what it sounds like.
Because I just found out that I didn't
right? And if you look at it on another dimension, right, it's crazy. If you look at another dimension, he has some videos that are 15 million hits on him. 10 million, 15 million hits. Right? So it's a very, very different world in which we live in. And you saw this fact when I showed the video. Right? Very, very powerful in the world in which we live in. That's extremely different. We're doing some really cool stuff with some technology called Show and Share, which is basically YouTube for the enterprise. And what we're doing is we're taking video that you're uploading and basically managing it in a secure fashion, giving you some editing capability and doing some really, really cool stuff. I won't play the video on it, but it's kind of interesting. The other one that I'm a very big fan of is not only the branded content, but also the communications. This type of communications, how many of you have used telepresence or really high-end video? Okay, a few of you. If you haven't, check it out. You can come to any one of the Cisco headquarters or give me a call and I'll arrange it for you. Have a meeting on us. But the point on this is, it's the experience on how you do video and how you have conversations is very, very different. It's 3 panels, 365 inches in size, and when you make the connection, particularly in the large units, it makes you feel like you're at a round table, sitting with other people. And by the way, it's changed the way I work. I used to travel every single week, and now I don't travel every week. As a matter of fact, here's a good data point for you. I saw 2 times the amount of clients last quarter, and I traveled 50% less. Right? That's a pretty interesting way of doing things. We're leveraging it for a lot of different things. We had an 11,000-person virtual company meeting, right, which was outstanding, not only from the productivity, but as a presenter, when you can see the screens of every part around the world, it gives you some insight of what they're thinking, right, and you can see their reactions to things. I did a remote presentation to a customer where I presented from New Jersey, and they were in Barcelona, and there were 700 people in the audience, and they projected me up on a screen, and I was able to see them and interact with them. It went so well that we actually created a product called the Virtual Presenter, and what it is, it's a 4 by 6 foot screen that's very, very thin. It's got a camera on it, as you can see, and what you end up doing with it is you can project a life-size image. So maybe at the next meeting that, Tino, if you would ever invite me back, you know, I might be able to do it virtually, right? Bring a virtual presenter, put it here, put a couple panels, and it'd be just like if I was here. We did it at the ANA conference in New York, where I presented locally, and my counter-presenter, or my co-presenter, was in San Jose, right? Again, it shows you the power of the video and what's happening, and we're kind of kidding around there. You know, it pays back. The video is transformational. It's going to change everything we do. It's going to really bring, you know, a whole new thing. And I mean, you can read the numbers, but the way I'm doing it and the way my life has changed is amazing. What I want to do is, there was a really interesting product placement that we did at 30 Rock. I want to play it for you. It's quite funny, and I think it makes the point.
What is this?
It's Cisco equipment, sir. It's almost better than being there.
Is this because of my bed bugs? I will not be ostracized like this.
Jack, bed bugs have become an epidemic in New York. I just think that everyone would feel more comfortable if you stayed in your office. Do you like the Cisco equipment?
Of course, it continues to be the gold standard by which all business technology is judged. Cisco, the human network.
This is what happens when you live north of 62nd Street.
You don't think I heard that? I can hear your hair growing on this thing. You are discriminating against me. I'm a human being. Did you just mute me? Did you just use Cisco's cutting-edge sure mute technology to mute me?
Because we've got to have a united front. Bart said that if we go in there with the numbers all set.
I'm going to come to your house and crawl in your bed and I'm going to bite you on the ass. Do you hear me?
That was a funny example, but it's really, again, to make the point, really changing. Where it's going to get really interesting is as we roll some of these technologies out into the consumer world. Right? It's not far into the distant future. And it's not a new concept. Back in the World's Fair in 1964, AT&T demonstrated, you know, the video phone. Right? And I remember as a child going there and playing with it and really getting a kick out of it. Actually, my grandmother was on one side, I was on the other, and you know, every time somebody else wanted to come and use it, I kind of didn't want to let them. I was enjoying it so much. But it's not a new concept. But now it's ripe. And it's ripe to be done because there's a tremendous amount of broadband, and there's also a phenomenal amount of households with HD TVs. So what's going to happen is a full transformation where when you bring this in, you're going to have a high-quality audio and video experience and very simple and intuitive. We demonstrated this thing in this technology at CES, at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. And what was really interesting, we showed 3 use cases. One was just having conversation. The second one that we did was someone talking to a medical doctor, and you're able to connect and share your vitals and everything else. And for those of you in the medical, I know there's a medical presentation here, this is going to be really cutting edge on how people are going to communicate with their doctors. And the third one was an example of the service industry. We had a online tutor tutoring someone, right? But it could be for any business that you can do as a service business. So very transformational. It's going to expand the things that are doing. So a couple predictions. In 5 years, I think our primary mode of communications will be video. I don't think there'll be a question on that. I think business travel will be 50 to 75% less. I don't think anybody minds. I'll give you one example. It's not uncommon for me to get up at 1 or 2 in the morning, go to the office and have a meeting with Asia, right? Very common. I come back, but it's an inconvenient to get up at 1 or 2, but I make it back home and get to sleep. I think the third thing is user-generated video will also be very common in business. And the bottom line is it's going to really enable collaboration and innovation. If you ask me today, what was the primary reason you would invest in video technology? It's not to save travel. It's because it allows people to communicate in a very natural way and actually be able to accomplish a heck of a lot more.